of the African worker.
So this is COP30. This is 30 years, billions of dollars and pounds spent around the world for governments and people to convene, and very little action has been done.
More important than all the work that's going on in the negotiating rooms that's happening through the UNFCCC agencies is the work that's being done by the global movement. Because as movements share knowledge, share strategy, share resource, share energy, it means we can form a force that's stronger and takes matters into its own hands as the people who do the work every day on this planet. This is probably one of the most powerful civil society presences at a COP I've ever experienced. Definitely one where Via Campesina has turned up with a counter organization and an alternative process that was really strong this time.
This particular COP, or conference of the parties around climate, has been sort of the culmination of 30 years of activism from many regions, from many organizations, from many social movements, engaging with national governments to actually do something. So this COP, people had hoped would be much more ambitious, that we would get that political commitment, especially for those regions and territories impacted by climate. We've seen changes in the last 10 years in terms of weather patterns, in terms of drought. We're seeing our ancient forests dying. So we really needed a strong outcome from this.
We demand social protection. We demand the creation of sustainable people. I want to bring to you the revolution of the African worker.
For over a decade, we have been resolutely negotiating and will continue to do so for a legally binding treaty to hold transnational corporations accountable for human rights violations and to close the loopholes in existing justice systems that have created an architecture of impunity. This just transition, that has fallen short because our big polluting companies are ones who are saying, oh, well, we're not committed to moving away from fossil fuels. All right, we're committed to a reduction in the emissions. And to me, that is a major failure. All right, we need our governments to step up. And how do we do that? It's with people power. 70,000 people, NGOs, social movements, ordinary people, indigenous peoples convened in Bella for the People's Summit. Right, and took to the streets. Right, and took various actions outside the blue zone, in the blue zone, on the streets of Bella, demanding that social compact that governments make towards their peoples.
There was such a huge presence of Indigenous, not only from Brazil, but from everywhere in the world, because their central message that the future is ancestral, that knowledge that they've been holding on to in the face of such adversity is the foundation for where we build a solution to climate change. we see that peasant farmers, they're not even mentioned in the negotiating text, but they've got seed banks everywhere in the world where they're bringing back traditional seed varieties. You realize that, what's happening on one level with United Nations negotiations is only one level of action, and in fact it's one of the slowest and most constricted. And the People's Summit is a space where many different movements can share what they're working on, and the conditions they're facing, but also the solutions that they're trying, share what works, what doesn't work, and then strategize together how we overcome those blockages.
Tem dado cada vez mais.
Mas esquece tem outras frutas também.
Tá rico.
Those people that are least responsible, in fact not responsible for the climate crisis, but being the ones who will be cleaning up this climate crisis, need to be given the finance. They shouldn't have to take out loans in order to be given the finance to do the work that they're doing. And that's a very clear message coming out from the majority of civil society that came out of the People's Summit, that came out of many advocates there who were lobbying for adaptation finance, lobbying for a stronger loss and damages package and a just transition package. It's incredible to feel the power of that strategic thinking, because it's brought together movements that were in territories fighting struggles on their own. When that presence is really huge at a COP, you can feel the cultural sea change. You can feel the way global awareness is shifting. And you realize this work is already being done. And when we come together, we can multiply that. These social movements are in the millions. It's inspiring to other social movements to realize that we can mobilize at scale outside of an institutional process, but in parallel, and really show the power of the peasant farmers movement. As things become normalized, knowing now that Indigenous land rights is the most proven and effective way to preserve biodiversity in the forests, that has become something that everybody goes, yes, I understand that, I believe it, I see it, I've seen these Indigenous people in front of me.
We are finally waking up as people to understand that we're more powerful together and that our fight is the same. We're fighting the same cause that big.
We in the global north should be the ones footing the bill for the transition.
Coming from a country where we've extracted from the global south, including people, right? We have a responsibility to change that. So as LWA, with all the contacts that we have globally, we need to be setting up our own supply chains and showing them that this can be done. I think as farmers, as food producers, as activists, we know the solutions. We need to be world building. Not just in our heads, we need to be doing it on the ground.
The people united can never be defeated. 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 The people united can never be defeated.